Okay, so here comes another fire video. Before I start, I want you to stop the tape and don't watch this. I am not a fire expert. You should not be watching this. You should go and find someone who is a fire expert and watch their stuff. I thought that I would make it, that it would be clear from what I've said previously in the episodes that there's more than one way to do things, and that I'm not an expert, and that I've seen experts and they're not me, but apparently some people took that as me being an expert, and I'm not an expert, so don't take any of what I'm doing and think that it's the right way to do it. The other mistake I made was that I said that there's more than one way to do things in my previous videos, and apparently that is wrong. So there is a right way and there are all the other ways, and my way of doing things is the wrong way. So unless you want to learn the wrong way to do things, stop right now and go watch another video. Also, why would someone who wants to be an expert or be viewed as an expert choose the name Average Iowa Guy? Wouldn't they choose like Super Iowa Guy or like, oh, I don't know, like Super Ninja Iowa Guy? That's the last I'm saying on the subject of expertise ever. If you still watch my channel and still watch these videos, just know that I'm not an expert. So in episode 1, I showed a real simple method under the easiest possible conditions of just lighting a fire with found twigs and natural stuff that you have around there. The whole point of that was to show very basic, easy mode fire starting. You need an ignition source, you need fuel, and you need oxygen. And each of those areas of fire can be broken down into different things, and I mean, you can go as complex as you want to. Today I'm just going to show a couple different tinders, and in my mind, tinders are just part of the fuel, but they're easier to start on fire, and they'll burn for a little while to get the rest of your wood or other fuel going. The whole purpose of a tinder is so that, you know, it's real easy, and I'm just going to show a couple that are pretty easy to bring along. This is just an inner tube from a bicycle. You can, if you don't have these, you can get them at Walmart or whatever. But if you have a little piece of inner tube from a bicycle, this is my actual tinder kit that I bring with me. It's got a fire steel and an empty medicine bottle, and then there's these are commonly called Ranger bands. And I'll just show, these are good because there's more than one use for them. You can use them as lashings and to, you know, strap gear to different places and things like that. So the good thing about these Ranger bands, like I was saying, is they are a piece of multi-use gear. You can use them for lots of different things in camp, and then they also make a decent fire starter once you get them going. Let's see how well this one does. But they stay lit, and it's just one possible tinder. A lot of people like those. My favorite one that I bring with me is actually just cotton balls that have had a little bit of Vaseline rubbed into them. And again, these are, although it doesn't seem like it, these are multi-use in that the Vaseline that's on there can be used for wound care, can be used for chafing and other things like that. And then if you just fluff them out a little bit, you can get a decent fire starter out of them. And they burn for quite a while. They're really cheap and easy to use, and they're really no-brainers. Some oddball ones that I've seen are just things that are found, like plastic spoons or pieces of plastic water bottles or things like that. There are very few places on Earth where you can go where you're not going to find plastic debris from humans, and a lot of this stuff burns quite well, surprisingly. Our Ranger band went out, the Vaseline cotton ball's still going, and the spoon is started there. There are also commercially available tinders that you can buy, and you know, whatever you're used to using is probably going to work just fine. The last time I was down on a trip, the people on the trip had what I misinterpreted as cooking oil, and I thought it was cooking oil because they had it held in a cooking oil container. And every time we would stop to light a fire, we would have very, you know, wet conditions and wet wood and things like that. And they'd take a little bit of this stuff that I thought was cooking oil and dump it on the wood and whip out a lighter. And it doesn't take very much of this stuff. They'd whip out a lighter and light it, and then a little bit later we'd have a fire. Now the idea of using cooking oil was very, very intriguing to me, again because it would have been a multi-use tinder. You know, you could cook with it and then eat with it and things like that. So and the thought never would have occurred to me. And as soon as I got back to the United States, I went and tried out a bunch of different cooking oils. I tried peanut oil, corn oil, vegetable oil, mineral oil, glycerin. I tried Crisco. I tried a bunch of different things, and I couldn't find anything that burned like this or like what they were using in the jungle. And this is just lamp oil, paraffin lamp oil, and so that may or may not be something you'd be interested in taking with you. I haven't carried it yet, but it is pretty effective at starting fires fairly easily. Looks like our plastic spoon would be pretty good at it too. The only thing I can think of that's along those lines, like something for cooking and for tinder, would be something like bacon grease. And my cousin showed me this. You just take the leftover egg carton things, and you know, not the styrofoam ones, the cardboard ones, and you pour bacon grease in them. I mean, a lot of people cook with their bacon grease. Some people just throw it out. Well, if you're one of the people that's just going to throw it out, you can make a decent tinder with it. And once you get it going, this stuff works fantastic. Burns like a candle almost. But in theory, you could also use the bacon grease to cook with. I don't carry that stuff. If you want to know what I carry, I just carry this, and it seems to work pretty good. One other popular tinder that people bring along is something called fatwood or pitchwood, or I'm sure there's other names for it. It is pine, or some sort of a pine species, and if you've ever, you know, put up a Christmas tree and had all that sticky stuff over your hands, you know that stuff is really, really sticky. Well, I didn't grow up with this tinder, so I don't really use it that much. But it's more common like down south or in places where there's a lot of logging and things. I'm told that most of the commercially available fatwood comes after they cut down a tree, like you've seen those like American logger shows and things. And then what happens is that the stump and the roots are still alive, and they still keep pumping that resin, and then the stump fills up with the resin and gets really easy to light. It's a little windy, so it's blowing out, but if you shield it a little bit, it'll burn just like Vaseline cotton ball or any of those other tinders that I showed. there's another way to use that, and that's you can make scrapings of it like I showed in the other video. I just choke up on the knife a bit, hold it perpendicular, and just make scrapings. And if you get a big enough pile of those, you can catch it on fire with a spark from a fire steel or something like that. So that's fat wood. And last but not least, for tinders that you can bring along, there's always newspaper. That may or may not work for you. I'm not a big fan of using newspaper, but probably the majority of the fires started in the US are probably started with just plain old newspaper like this. This is a chimney flute with some charcoal in it, and I'm going to have this charcoal to heat my smoker. I'm making some bacon and tasso ham today, and should be pretty tasty. I use the charcoal as the heat source, and then I used wood chips for smoke. This is one of these Weber charcoal flutes, and it does a pretty good job of balancing ignition source, tinder, fuel, and oxygen, and it's a pretty good method of starting a fire.